Okay, it's going. Okay, so today was Madaming time, and we went to go see Madam Web in the theater, and someone on Twitter asked me if it was the second coming of Predator World that the rest of the internet's been making it up to be. I don't. It's not that, because this was actually kind of fun to make fun of, because there's there are lines in this movie so clunky that it basically is a signed confession that this was a first draft script.
Yeah, on top of that, lots of the criticism I was reading, from a couple of friends, was that the acting was not good across the board.
Is no good.
Is no good. It's a reference to a game I showed Jadow. But it's so Dakota Johnson was her name, right?
Yeah, Dakota Johnson's lead actress.
So her performance, I mean, if she was meaning to be an unlikable bitch character, she really succeeded on that front.
It's they set up her character at the start of the movie as she has a thing with kids. She doesn't like kids, and she doesn't do family stuff because, of course, a script with 3 male screenwriters writing 4 female lead characters would make kids and family the main character arc. So it's she comes across these 3 kids who are being hunted by a supervillain and actively tries not to give a shit about them.
It was so stupid. She saves them, so the first vision she gets of the 3 of them is they're on a train. I mean, keep in mind, we're going to be spoiling this whole thing because you should not go see this movie unless you're ready to riff it.
Well, It's been a week. I think the whole 12 people who wanted to see it have had the chance by now.
Yeah, so just a warning if you care. So she gets on the train. By the way, so the movie is set in
Maybe we should start at the beginning.
Okay.
I'm spoiling this anyway. Because, the movie has a prologue in 1973. A prologue that gets shown again later because clumsy. Madam Web's mom is, trekking in the Amazon looking for spiders that might have magic healing juice. And, already the dialogue is clunky as all hell.
Yeah.
And it's her tour guide just happened to be this guy who, was also looking for the spider because apparently in a Spider-Man universe, being bitten by any spider gives you superpowers.
At least in this one, anyway.
So it's Ezekiel Sims is the guy's name. He's I had a crappy childhood, so that makes it okay for me to be evil.
Which they don't elaborate on at all. He just simply says it.
That's the entirety of his character, is that one line. And it's he shoots Madam Web's mom and runs away. So, and then you see,
it's these tribal, spider people. It's really crappy editing. And it's almost lots of the editing in this movie plays like a bad Saw movie. The best way to describe it.
People compare these to the pre-MCU crappy superhero movies of the 2000s. 2000s Hallmark was Saw editing was
yeah. So it had that's the thing. The editing is a bad Saw movie, but really, I wouldn't even say this movie is a crappy Marvel movie of old. Really, it plays a crappy mishmash of Final Destination and Terminator.
Pretty much,
that's the best way to describe what it's like.
Yeah, and it's it turns out Madam Web's mom is visited by this tribes people who can climb walls and are dressed like some people saw Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man outfit and tried to rebuild it with trash.
Yeah, so after she gets shot, these people save her. They bring her to this magic pond thing. They have her get bit by one of the magic spiders.
Oh, right in the tits! It's literally right in her chest.
Yeah, and it's right there. It's almost like a ripoff of Revenge of the Sith's ending, where Madam Web is born and she dies right after.
Yeah.
And while saying that and they to give her a big speech about how Madam Web's destined to do great. I think they did anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, destined for great things, all that crap. And then it smash cuts to Dakota Johnson driving an ambulance and then cuts to a title card of 2003 because why did we need 2 cuts there? You couldn't just put 2003 in a caption.
Like, now the 2003 setting, I remembered from one of the trailers that there was a big anachronism with a guy on a subway playing a PSP, which did not exist in 2003. But oddly enough, to the movie's credit, they otherwise remain period accurate. Like, you see a blockbuster during the ambulance chase. The Pepsi logo is the logo they had at the time.
Yeah.
And
we were familiar with it because we've been playing Pepsi Man.
Yep. Pepsi Man!
Pepsi Man coming in to save the day at the end, which he basically did, would have been the most realistic thing in that movie.
Especially since, we'll get to it when we get to it, but it plays like a freaking Pepsi Man situation.
So it's like, immediately cuts to Dakota Johnson driving an ambulance and her partner, Ben. And yes, Ben in a Spider-Man movie, of course he's fucking Ben Parker, is in the back doing CPR to someone, and they have like a vomit of exposition, like, I haven't been shot this much since I was in the military. And, or like, I thought you'd never been shot in New York. I thought you'd prefer not being in the military. And it's like, flat acting about like that, honestly. And it's like, dumping exposition about both of them that never becomes relevant again. But then it's like, they save this lady, and then this little girl like gives Madam Web a drawing.
It was a little girl? I thought it was a little boy.
I couldn't tell, honestly.
Well, it doesn't matter, so.
And it's like, and she's like, get the fuck out of here, kid. What am I supposed to do with this? and so it's like, already this woman, like, I get they're trying to build what her character arc is supposed to be, but already this woman is not likable in the slightest.
No.
And then, and here's, and then, like, Madam Web goes to a baby shower because Ben tells her that he's got a new girlfriend, and then at the baby shower, it's like, hi, I'm Mary Parker. I'm Ben's sister-in-law, implying that he went from, hi, I have a new girlfriend, to married in about a day.
And another thing, he says he has a new girlfriend, and he's like, and then Madam Web asks, what's her name? And then he just sits there quietly, and he kind of smirks, and it's like, they don't want to say the name May.
But you had a very interesting theory about that.
Yeah, so my theory about that is, so jumping ahead a bunch, so the movie, at the end of the movie, Mary Parker, they have the baby shower, she does give birth to a baby boy.
They don't say his name.
They don't say that it's Peter. They don't say his name is Peter. So my theory on that is, I'm wondering if Sony has it in like their contract with Marvel Studios that they just can't directly say like Peter and May Parker's names because they were in the MCU. It's almost like the bat embargo almost that DC was doing with like Justice League Unlimited back in the 2000s, where they have Aunt May and Peter Parker's Spider-Man on reserve for the MCU, but then Sony's own universe just can't really have them.
And that wouldn't surprise me in the least, like, because the rights for animation and live action are separate, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was like a live action embargo on you can't use Peter Parker or May Parker. You can't even say their names.
Well, it's funny because Disney and Marvel Studios, they have the full TV rights to Spider-Man. It's like the film rights that Sony still has.
Yeah.
So.
But then, like, getting back to how unlikable Madam Web is, like, she's at this baby shower, and they're, like, doing some weird game where everyone talks about their moms, which I've never been to a baby shower. Is that a thing that happens?
This is the first time I've seen something like that.
But so then they ask, her name's Cassandra Webb, but whatever. They ask Madam Web, like, what, you don't have good memories of your mom? And she proceeds to go into explicit detail about how her mom died in childbirth to a woman who's about to pop. It was supposed to be funny, but we're both just going like, dude, shut the fuck up. Seriously. And then when they're
talking...
And then more of that taunting about the names. They go around and go asking, oh, does anybody have ideas for baby names? And when they get back to Madam Web, I was like, oh yeah, let's give this person another shot at the mic.
And it's at that point where she finds out she has like these future vision powers because like I don't know, like it like comes the hell out of nowhere. Like at first I couldn't even tell what was going on with it.
It's like earlier in the movie, she like gets caught in a car and falls off because I don't know if paramedics are the ones who like get people out of cars. I think the cops did that, but I don't know who has charge of the.
I think it might be firefighters who do that. Maybe.
But, okay, so either way, the movie had it wrong. But it's like these paramedics get into a car to pull a person that's stuck in a car, and then she gets caught in the car because she had like 20 seconds to get out, but just didn't. She falls, like, is legally dead, and then she starts having, like, deja vu powers where you will see a scene just play out twice in a row for no apparent reason. It is so jarringly edited.
Like, when it happens at the baby shower, like, the way they indicate is, like, there's a balloon that pops out of nowhere, and, like, what happens is they circle around, they give Madam Web another shot at the mic. They like, oh, what baby name do you think? And she just sits there quietly. Suddenly the balloon pops again. And I'm like, okay, so is like the villain after them or something? Yeah. And then it wasn't until they started going around with like the baby names again. I was like, wait, that was a vision.
Yeah. It's visions that they don't tell you are visions. And it's like, I guess it's supposed to like be immersive to how she's experiencing them, but it's just jarring, especially since a lot of them come with a jump scare chord. And and like on the train later, she's like they play out of order.
They play the whole thing out of order.
Yeah. So it's also edited like Final Destination, basically.
Very much so,
but
and badly. Like. So after the baby shower, like, she's in the ambulance again, and it gets to one of the funniest mistakes they make. So Madam Web is a paramedic, and get ready for this. So she's administering CPR to somebody that they saved from a fire, and apparently Madam Web's way of doing CPR is literally nothing more than endless chest compressions.
It's literally just chest compressions for like a minute straight, never gives him mouth to mouth a single goddamn time, to the point you start wondering if Dakota Johnson had it in her contract that she will not kiss or put her lips on anyone else's face all movie.
Yeah, like, for one of my jobs, I had to get CPR certified. Like, they do it every 2 years. Like, not only do you have to do rescue breaths, but I believe, like, the chest compressions, I think they're supposed to be a bit tougher than what Madam Web is shown doing for most of the movie. Like, it seems like she's doing it, like, very lightly.
Yeah.
And, like, almost like she's doing something not so nice.
Like she learned something else from Christian Grey.
Yeah. And on top of that, and another thing with CPR is they treat it like it's a magic life-saving procedure. The real thing with CPR is it's basically meant to keep a person alive until like the actual medical professionals like come with like their equipment and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there was one flatline delivery that came to mind where it's like, Ben is getting a worker out, and she's like, wait, check him for internal injuries. And it's like, just one example of, like, Dakota Johnson is so on autopilot in this movie.
Like, it was like how Miles was describing it. Like, basically, like, you could tell she was just there for a paycheck.
Yeah, you can.
Like, I will say, she's not the worst actor in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, jumping ahead a little bit, easily the worst actor was the guy playing Ezekiel Sims.
Well, like, the performance might not have been that bad, but they went through and redubbed the villain's entire performance to where it all sounds really jarring. And I have a movie called Slayer where this big black guy has an obviously dubbed over voice, and it's like more deep than you could possibly imagine, or that should have been possible. And it sounds hysterical. His is about like that. It just has a quality to where it doesn't sound right at all.
Like, but how I was describing it when we were watching the movie was that it was like he was a bad Power Rangers villain. Yeah. Like, both in delivery and in the quality of his dialogue. Like, the spoken words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, going back to, so at the paramedic where, Madam Web's doing chest compressions, that's the only thing you have to do for CPR. That's where she starts having her future visions about seeing how people die. And, like, the one of her paramedic co-workers is, like, getting into an ambulance, like, she sees him dying. And, like, that whole thing is shot like a bad Final Destination premonition.
It's shot like the ones from Final Destination 4, where he just starts having the premonitions again in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, after that, she finally starts to piece together that she has future sight powers. She goes to a doctor talking about these premonitions, and we were both cracking jokes like, the doctor says, stay home for a week, watch some old movies. And I'm like Final Destination. And at least one of those is out by now.
Yeah, like I was telling you, like the first movie was out at the time. It would have been on DVD. The second movie was like brand new. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, but yeah, so she's in the apartment. She's watching like an old version of A Christmas Carol. And another note about how unlikable she is. Like, it's literally at the part in A Christmas Carol where he's like watching the
Ghost of Christmas Future.
Ghost of Christmas Future, and he's like, how can I prevent what is foretold? And Madam Web, kind of like a stuck-up bitch, is like, yeah, right, you can't do that.
Yeah. And then, but then she opens she gets a premonition of a bird crashing into her window. She opens the window and the bird survives. And then I just realized, for literally no goddamn reason they ever attempt to explain, she decides to go to the subway where the next piece of plot happens.
Yeah.
But, like, I thought she was going out to test her powers or something, but she literally just gets on a train. She was already home, so they don't explain where the hell she was going.
Yeah.
She just gets on this train for no reason, and and then these three teenage, I should point out, we did skip over one thing, because they have an introductory scene with the villain where he doesn't look like he's aged much in the last 30 years.
Yeah, like, I was, like, wondering if that was because of, like, the spider powers he got, or what.
Well, I don't know how much, it was a long time between seeing him, but the chief of the spider people didn't look like he had aged much in 30 years either.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, so he's banging this lady from the NSA and is like, you've developed facial recognition technology. I want to use it. And then we find out that eventually Ezekiel Sims has the superpower to poison people by touching them, but only if he's able to touch them consistently for like 30 seconds in a row, which gives him the same power as anyone who can choke a person.
So, like, no point.
Yeah.
Especially since he kills the NSA agent with, like, these powers. He doesn't kill anybody else in, like, the entire movie,
like,
I don't think.
He comes close to killing Madam Web, but, like, that's it. But, so, him having this power is completely pointless, especially since he has super strength. He could just go.
And that's how he almost kills Madam Web, by the way, with the super strength. Like, I mean, like, during, like, a later scene in the movie, he does briefly, like, touch her with the poison, but, like, it's not nearly enough.
It's a minor annoyance just to let her know that he has poison powers.
Yeah.
So, basically, he's got this facial recognition technology now, has a completely unexplained hacker lady who is just able to surveil the entire city at once, and he's having constant nightmares that these three women, spider women, are going to kill him. If you've seen them in the trailers, you've seen pretty much all their scenes, and even that was confusing me, because, like, one has the iron spider legs in her back, one has, like, magic glowy yellow spider ropes, like it looks exactly like Wonder Woman's lasso of truth, and then one fights by throwing around a green frisbee.
I don't know if that's because I know one of them's a variant of Spider Woman. Mm-hmm. One of them
I think they're all versions of Spider-Woman, but it's just weird.
I know that there's like different names like Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl. I don't know. I feel like there's another name I'm missing.
I think it's just different versions of Spider-Woman, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's looking for these 3 girls. He wants to kill them before they kill him, which he's got plenty of time because he's got a full head of gray hair in the flash forward. Yeah. But it just so happens these 3 teenage girls just happen to get on the same train that Madame Web's on, and she has visions, oh crap, he's going to kill them, and she grabs them and they leave.
Oh, no. So we were alluding earlier that she has like this kind of character arc where she just doesn't like kids for some reason. Well, what happens is when she gets like the future visions of like Ezekiel Sims killing them, like walking down the train, she almost gets off the train right then and there.
About that, yeah. She basically goes, "Oh well, it's that bitch's problem."
Like, so she almost gets off the train, but then she decides to go get them off the train. Like, she's trying to take them around, and she has like a vision of like getting arrested by the police. And like, long story short, like the Ezekiel Sims gives chase. He kills a bunch of cops.
Pulls a black Spider-Man suit out of his ass.
Yeah. Like, he was not in the costume when on like the first train, but then when they escape, suddenly he's in the costume.
Yeah. And I just realized this trained paramedic tries to leave 3 women to die.
Yeah, so like,
he's not a very good paramedic.
So like, what happens is she steals a taxi and like she drives away, and because like the police think she's the one that was kidnapping them, and
which never comes up again.
It never comes up again. And what happens is she tries to abandon them right then and there. She's like, "Go back to your parents. They can protect you."
That's very close to her actual delivery. Yeah. And it's like, and also these 3 women, I only caught one of their names, like Julie, Anya, and Maddie, I think it was.
Julia, Anya, and Maddie.
Maddie is a massive bitch. Anya is also kind of bitchy, but she's at least kind of snarky and jokey about it. And Julia is like the really withdrawn good girl. And it's like, so already we're following 4 people, and 3 of them are so unlikable you want to see the villain kill them.
To be frank, Julia was like the only character I legitimately liked, only because it seemed like...
I liked the skirt she was wearing.
I suppose. But, like, she's she's easily the nicest character of everybody. Like, she's like never, like, she never acts like a bitch. Not really. I don't know, like...
Yeah,
like... Basically, she's like the best. Like,
for a lot of it, she's just kind of there.
She's just kind of there. Like,
in fact, through the second act is about the only time that the 3 girls get any like actual character development. They're just an escort mission subject for the last act. Yeah. Like, their character development just stops, and now it's like they're just lumps that that Madame Web has to protect by the end of the movie.
Yeah. So what happens is. So the girls barely convince Madame Web to keep protecting them because they know that, like, Julia's thing is that her parents are divorced, and they later reveal that her mom's in a psych ward, like, which was a jarring reveal.
Yeah, it's like, it comes in 2 waves, but basically they reveal, okay, these girls being bitches is okay because none of them have parents.
Yeah, like, Julia's thing is that her mom's in a psych ward, and she thinks, and they emphasize she thinks her dad doesn't care about her, so she ran away from home. Then Anya's thing is that her mom is dead, and her dad got deported. And like, wasn't there like a line?
There's a line. We half missed it because we were talking, but there's a line where she literally says, "I can't exist until I'm 18." Basically implying that if she gets caught by police before she turns 18, she'll be deported, but if she gets caught after that, she'll be fine.
And I'm thinking that's not, I mean, correct us if we're wrong. Basically, if you're born in the country, no matter the circumstance, as long as you were born in the country, you are an American citizen.
Yeah,
So at least that's how I think it is.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. Like, even if, like, an illegal immigrant came in and, like, gave birth, like, if it was on U.S. soil, you're declared a citizen.
Yeah. And then Maddie's deal is that her parents both live in China.
They live in China because she's she acts like a spoiled rich bitch because she is.
Yes.
Because basically she has a line how her dad apparently makes millions doing pollution.
Making plastics, yeah.
Making plastics, and I forget what the mom does.
The mom spends his money on crappy art. It was
so like basically every rich person stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
And she, like, it's weird. She acts like a rich bitch, but at the same time, she claims to be ashamed of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, she's ashamed of what her dad does, but she's not ashamed of the money it gets her because she flaunts it every chance that she gets.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think in the future visions, like, she's the one with the robot spider arms. I guess that's probably meant to imply she, like, just has money for gadgets and
she
shit.
had money to build them.
Mm-hmm.
So Madam Web takes the girls into the woods just to hide them, and she leaves them there while she goes back to her apartment to, like, look through her stuff.
Because one of the girls offhandedly mentioned a spider, and she was reading her mom's notes on spiders, and immediately makes the connection that this is how it's tied together.
And, like, the scene where she goes back into the apartment to look for her stuff is just so weird, because so she has a cat in the apartment that is just named Cat.
Yeah, that's another signed confession moment that this was a first draft. This is like when I had to do an essay for the final exam of my medieval history class. Spoonie was doing his Ultima review, so I said I just put in the name. I couldn't think of a lord's name, so I put in Lord British, and I forgot to go back and change it. So there was just a character in this, like, essay named Lord British, and I turned it in, and it was fine.
Oh my god.
And then, like, there's a scene where she's reading about these spider people who can climb walls, and she tries it, and it's clearly supposed to be a big joke laugh scene. There were at least 7 people, counting us in the theater. No one chuckled.
There was not, like, I was laughing at this movie, but not at the scenes that you were supposed to laugh with.
Not at anything that was supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
So, like, the girls have no food and have been left in the woods for hours on end, and they don't think Madam Web's coming back because she's a bitch.
Yeah, so Maddie, I think her name is, so she's like, let's go to a diner and get real food, come on. Like, another thing I will give the movie slight credit is that they do kind of get modern teenager talk kind of accurate.
A
little bit.
It's stereotypical, but it's less stereotypical than I've seen other places. Like, they're not saying, well, it's not the 80s, so they're not, like, saying radical and stuff.
Or dude.
But there is still, like, jarring moments where, like, Madam Web is like, again, it's supposed to be funny, like, later on when they're driving away, where she's, Maddie, I think, says, we're still not high-fiving, and Madam's like, of course not. It's not cool.
Yeah, that's, like, near the end. It's, like, during the last chase scene. But...
And again, another laugh line that got 0 laughs.
Yeah.
So, like, these girls go to a diner because they want to get some food, and they think they have to fend for themselves. Fair enough. Then they see some cute boys in the corner and start dancing on the table, because getting fucked is really your primary concern when you know there's a psycho killer with spider powers after you.
And it's like the whole thing is Maddie's fault. Like, she's the one that's forcing them to go to the diner. Like, she keeps paying for all this food for them to eat. And then when she sees the boys off to the corner, like, she forces Julia to, like, go with her to, like, flirt with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Anya was the one who successfully sat that out. But...
Yeah, she did. Well, she was, but then, like, she tries to get him to go, and then she pulls her up on the table. So yeah, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, like, one of the guys, this is the one and only time that the abduction plot thing comes back, because, like, a guy sees them in the bar and calls the police, and that's how Ezekiel finds out that they're at the bar. And it's like, when his magic hacker is on the line, he has another awkward label, like, patch me through to the police department. And it's like another real flat line, and he heads out there. And then Madam Web has a future vision of him killing them, and then again, much like Final Destination, it turns out it was a premonition.
Like, it's exactly like a Final Destination premonition, because like he offs all three of them, and like Madam Web like takes a knife and tries to fight him, but then he steals a knife and stabs her, which is like exactly how like a Final Destination premonition would end.
And then it cuts to her like still in the park, so it's like it cut exactly like Final Destination. So she full ass runs him over with a car. Like when it happens for real, because like he gets to the bar first and she runs him over, and then they decide to go to a hotel. This is where they have their big bonding moment of, oh, it's okay, the kids are annoyed because they don't have parents, and that's again, Madam Web is still trying to ditch all three of them until it drills into her head until they drill into her head like they have no one else.
That is how the conversation starts. It's just her trying to ditch them again.
Yeah. And then one of the most baffling things in the movie happens. Like, Ezekiel and Madam Web, two characters who do not have psychic powers, somehow have a psychic conversation. Like, neither of them can do anything with, like, except future sight from what we've been told so far, and yet they full on have, like, a telepathic chat, and then it turns out she was sleeping for it. So it's like, these people's powers are being made up on the fly.
Like, was it, like, I think what happens is, like, it's shot like she's leaving the hotel when the girls are asleep, and she, like, goes back to her apartment, or no, she goes back to the diner.
Yeah.
She goes back to the diner. And then that's when, like, the psychic connection is. And then it turns out she wakes up and she's still in the hotel room. Oh, and then
another funny... This is the biggest running joke if you're riffing it with a friend, because Madam Web decides to teach the other three girls CPR!
And guess what? She teaches it exactly how she did it earlier in the movie.
Exactly.
Just endless chest compressions.
And literally tells them, if you stop doing it, the patient dies. You have to do it, like she tells them that it simulates a heartbeat, and if you do it long enough, it just becomes a magic revival spell.
You know, it just kind of hit me. I'm pretty sure you have to do the chest compressions slower than that. Like, she does it like this. I think it's actually more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
With more oomph,
Yeah.
And then you do like 10, and then you do the breathing.
It's 10. Like, basically, it's supposed to be like 10 compressions, rescue breath, and like it's kind of like a cycle of that. Like, I think generally where you're supposed to, like, I think it's meant to be like 2 rounds of it, like, basically. Mm. And then, like, I think there's like another step you might have to repeat, but I haven't done the certification test in a little while.
Yeah.
So.
But it would have been so fucking funny if one of the girls says, aren't you supposed to breathe on their mouth? And Madam was just like, no!
That would have been... Well, that would have probably crossed it too far. That would have gotten them slammed even more.
I'm sorry, I just had that funny mental image in my head of like, this is what would happen in real life.
Exactly. Well,
so Madam Web calls Ben, and apparently, like, Spider-Man's dad is out of town, so they can crash at his mom's house, at Spider-Man mom's house. So, and Madam Web decides to go to Peru to find the magic spider people,
and she decides to leave the girls with Ben. When you would think in this situation she would want to bring them with her because they don't have superpowers. She does. What the hell is a paramedic going to do to protect them from a supervillain?
So, yeah, well, 2 things I just thought of. One, they act throughout the entire movie like they know exactly how Ezekiel is tracking them with the magic CIA, NSA face scanning technology. Even though they never are told that, they never see it in action. They have no way of knowing this information. So for all she knows, Madam Web just threw Ben Parker and his pregnant sister-in-law in the firing line to die.
Oh, that's another thing.
She has no way of knowing. Ezekiel has no way of finding them.
That's another thing I realized. They do name drop Richard Parker, who's Peter Parker's dad, but very conveniently...
He's never on screen.
He's never on screen. They very conveniently explain him away as being, like, on a trip or something.
Yeah, because in some actually, I think in many continuities, like, Spider-Man's parents are secretly secret agents.
Yeah, including, like, the Mark Webb movies.
Yeah.
And the ultimate continuity of the comics.
Yeah. So, like, Madam Web goes to Peru, finds the one guy who helped deliver her, looks like he hasn't aged. He takes her to a magic pool where she finds out, oh my god, my mom didn't hate me by going to the Amazon when she was 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, like, where the hell did that come from? I thought she said she knew she died in childbirth.
Yeah, like, she apparently knew that her mom went to the Amazon when she was 8 months pregnant, which... obviously is a very dumb thing to do, and just assumed that meant that she was actively trying to get her baby killed. And it's like, they have a reveal where, it is something from the comics where Madam Web has a disease, that's why she's always sitting in a chair with a life support system, and basically the mom was going to Peru to try and find a cure in the form of a magic spider, basically. So, she has this big reveal, and then the magic spider guy who delivered her says, once you accept responsibility, you will get great power. It's just like, fuck!
They found a way. They really felt like they needed to have the great power, great responsibility line, and they thought they needed to change it up without thinking it through.
Oh, and they also copy that shot from Doctor Strange where the Ancient One knocks Doctor Strange's soul out of his body.
Yeah, it's like the spider guys like trying to show her the truth of her powers, or like how she came to be or something, and he's like, I will show you the truth or something like that, or you can find the truth yourself or something, and then he punches and then her soul phases out of her body and she falls in the pool.
But then after the vision's done, like her body is still in the pool, and the guy's like, no, you did that all yourself. It's like hell she did.
That is, now I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking that is a lot like the stupid spirit journey scene in Steven Seagal's On Deadly Ground.
So like, Madam Web goes back to the United States. They do establish it's been about a week, so they do know you can't just go to Peru and go on bus and find a magic spider tribe in a day.
So, meanwhile, like, at Mary Parker's house, her water breaks. And obviously Ben needs to get her to the hospital. Oh, another thing, Ben, a trained paramedic, doesn't understand the concept of premature birth because he's like, wait, the due date's not for 4 weeks. Why is the baby coming now?
Yeah, trained paramedic doesn't know how birth works. When I guarantee you, he has delivered multiple babies in that ambulance. But it's like, and then so they decide they need to go to the hospital, and for no goddamn reason, all three of the Spider Girls go with him.
Like, and it's not explained why they go with him, but I mean, they claim, oh, we'll still hide, we'll just put hoods on.
Which, again, they have no idea how this NSA tracking stuff works. How did they know that's going to help?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the magic NSA hacking finds them, and Ezekiel tries to kill him, but then Madam Web somehow drives an ambulance through a cement wall or something like that.
Like, it was like, it looked like a billboard or something. It's like, I guess the idea is it was meant to be a parking garage, except that wasn't clear.
Yeah, like, we have no idea. It would have been more realistic if they just had a portal gun go at the truck, because that basically is what happened.
Yeah, so Madam Web rescues the girls. Like, she makes them come in the ambulance with her and leaves like Ben and Mary to like go off on their own since Ezekiel's not going to follow them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go to a fireworks factory.
The same one that they burned down at the start of the movie. Because this is the actual climax of the film. Their actual plan for defeating the bad guy is to go to a fireworks factory, light everything on fire, and basically just hope the bad guy follows them in and stupids himself to death.
Yeah, so they set off a bunch of fireworks, and you noted that's not how fireworks work.
There's a moment in this movie that is like pulled straight from Dread where a firework hits a cement wall and blows it open like it's a high explosive round from Judge Dredd. And that happens multiple times, and it's like, God damn, that is not how fireworks work.
But yeah, it's like throughout the entire climax at like this warehouse or factory or whatever, fireworks are like going off. Like she keeps having like future visions of how she has to get them to a rescue chopper.
There's a Nicolas Cage movie called Next that works almost exactly like this, only it's actually good, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Like, the premise of Next is, like, this magician can see, like, 20 seconds into the future, and he uses it to become a party magician, and then the CIA or something recruits him to help fight a terrorist bomb. His powers work basically the same way as Madame Web's, only they get a lot more fun and creative with it, and it's a lot more clear what's going on.
I might actually have to check that out at some point.
It has a crappy ending, because they kind of intended it to be a series, it seems like, but it's pretty good, honestly.
All right, well, anyways, so, like, they are on the roof, and it's like, I forget what it was they were trying to do.
They were trying to get to a helicopter that she called before they ditched the ambulance. So they have to, literally they have to go to the chopper!
So, like, I think she keeps seeing, like, these future visions of, like, all these things that, like, go wrong across the way.
Like, she sees the fireworks coming so that she can yell at people to duck.
Yeah,
and the villain never takes the cue to do it himself, by the way.
Yeah, and they, like, she also sees, like, the villain, like, I think she sees, like, the villain, like, getting a shot at them or something. But ultimately, the rescue chopper doesn't work out because we get like a original Resident Evil 3 kind of thing where one of the fireworks just shoots it down.
There's also a moment where Madame Web gets a round piece of cement with two like rebar straps on it and uses it exactly like Captain America's shield.
Yes! Like they knew what they were trying to copy.
And there's a line where the black girl of the three Spider Girls says, Maddie, says, you wouldn't like me when I'm hangry.
Which they say multiple times.
So
across the movie.
So let's just throw jabs at Marvel to piss them off while we're at it.
But anyways, so a bunch of holes are like she sees a future vision of like a Pepsi Cola logo. That's why we're joking about like how Pepsi Man saves the day. She sees one of the letters falling down, and she figures out that's how she's gonna beat Ezekiel.
Which he very conveniently stops actively trying to kill everyone when it's convenient for the plot.
And, like, so it's to a point where there's a bunch of holes in the roof, and, like, the girls are, like, hanging on to, like, rebar, like, where it's, like, a sea of fire from the fireworks down below. Mm. And very suddenly, we get when you learn responsibility, you get great power. And, like, she suddenly gets, like, these...
She sends out 3 magic tentacles that make 3 clones of herself that pull the girls to safety. And then very comedically, Ezekiel just like lightly punches her. It's like, oh, that's over now.
And then they get into like a final fight, which results with the S and the Pepsi logo falling down, and that somehow is enough to kill him.
Like, there's a point where he's, like, trapped under debris that looks light enough that he should have had no problem lifting it, but apparently his super strength was on a cooldown until, like, enough stuff falls on him that it kind of implies it kills him off screen.
Yeah, like, he stops moving when that one S falls down, but I think the idea is that, like, the rest of the logo falls down shortly after that.
Yeah.
That's why... It's literally Pepsi Man saves the day, because that's something that would happen.
The Pepsi logo kills him.
So then at that point, Madame Web falls into the water, like, when the sign goes down. And I think they show something hitting her when she gets in the water.
It looked like something grazed her arm almost, and that somehow leads to her becoming blind when they fish her out.
Blind and paralyzed.
I didn't,
because, like, she's in the because she was in a wheelchair.
Oh, they didn't even establish the paralysis thing, so I was legitimately confused why she was in a wheelchair when, like, they didn't establish that she was paralyzed.
They didn't even say it. Like, but we're jumping ahead a little bit. So she goes in the water, the girls jump in and save her, and they save her with the CPR, her famous CPR.
And we were
nothing but chest compression.
And I was joking, like, I bet she really wishes she had taught them to do correct CPR at this point.
Yeah. Like, literally, the only thing they establish is one of them starts the chest compressions. Okay, I'm tired. Your turn.
After like 3 seconds, she's tired. Although she might have been the one that swam in to save her. I could not fucking tell you.
Yeah, well, so they go to the hospital. That's where baby Parker is born. Then, of course, they never say his name's Peter.
Well, both when when Madam Web asks Ben the name of his girlfriend, and when they're like fishing for names, I was just going like, just say the goddamn name.
It's like I said. It's like almost like Peter and May. The names Peter and May are off limits to Sony for some reason.
It's like if they had actually said the name, Kevin Feige would have just run in and Falcon punched them.
Well, so, like, in another hospital room, they have Madam Web, like, she has, like, coverings on her eyes, because when they revive her with the CPR, like, they have, like, the distinguished, like,
they focus several times their eyes
on her eyes, which are very obviously blind.
But, yeah, they don't do shit to establish she's paralyzed, so I was like, why does she need the wheelchair?
Yeah, so, they talk, so... The last scene has, like, the girls, like, I guess the implication is that she sort of took them in as
foster kids.
As, like, foster kids. And I will give Dakota Johnson a little bit of credit. She's wearing, like, Madam Web sort of styled sunglasses because, well, she's blind and she's in the wheelchair. In that one last minute of the movie, she kind of had, like, pretty accurate mannerisms to Madam Web. Like, she does, like, the smirk. Like, she's, like, sitting there, like, confidently in the wheelchair. Like, the wisdom she bestows on them. It's pretty generic, but it's something Madam Web would do. Like, my only reference for Madam Web is, like, the 90s animated series and a little bit of Shattered Dimensions, because I haven't finished that game. But, yeah, like, from what I know of Madam Web, like, in that one last minute... like a movie that's 2 hours long.
It's pushing 2 hours. I think it's like 1 hour and 53.
Yeah, it's like that final minute of the movie. I mean, they do show another flash forward of like the girls, like in their spider personas.
Yeah, like, the only times you see most of the marketing revolved around showing these girls in costume, and pretty much all the scenes were in the trailers. Like, you see them beating up Ezekiel in the Future Vision at the start of the movie. You see a few seconds each of them like fighting generic crime at the end of the movie, and that is it.
Yeah, and Madam Web's alongside them as like an astral projection, which I thought was weird, but like with her in the wheelchair and all that, that one solid minute at the end was like the only time she's like anything resembling like the actual Madam Web.
It's where you can kind of see why she was hired.
Yeah.
But yeah, people have been saying, like, the popular figure I keep saying is they estimate that the Spider Girls are in their outfits for less than 2 minutes. I think it was probably less than 1 minute.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I remember seeing on Twitter, like, there was this one tweet on Twitter that had a line at Ben Parker's expense they said something like, "Oh, you should become an uncle, Ben. You should become an uncle. That way you'll die," or something. That line is not in the movie. Or at least if it was, I missed it.
There is an illusion, like, when she is in the hospital, they say, Ben's happy to be an uncle now, all the fun, none of the responsibility, and Madam Web says, that's what he thinks.
Yeah, that's like the closest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of people have been saying, like, Adam Scott, who's I don't know him from anything, but he's apparently kind of a famous comedian, plays Uncle Ben. He's about the most likable character in the movie, but he's not in it for very long.
Yeah, like, Ben and Julia are the only characters that I could really stand.
Yeah. Same here. Because, like, it's almost like a switch gets flipped, where, like, Madam Web is annoying, doesn't like anyone, she's awkward, and you just don't like anything that she does. But then she goes to Peru and does the dip in the pool and finds out, oh, my parents' issues are resolved, and like from then like a switch gets flipped to where she starts acting halfway likable, or kind of. But it's like you still don't buy it.
No. Like, it's just a very flat performance, like, even when she stops being unlikable.
Yeah. But it's like, so like, not a whole lot. The movie almost had a kind of interesting idea of like, okay, you've got these four people that don't have superpowers. None of them are like trained in combat or anything, and they have to fight this. You have to stop this guy who's got super strength and a poison touch that does nothing, but still. That is almost interesting until the resolution basically becomes hope that he's stupid enough to follow us in here and get himself killed.
Yeah.
So it's like they wrote themselves into a corner of, oh crap, we haven't given any of these people superpowers.
That's why when people compare this to like the crappy like older Marvel movies, like stuff like Daredevil and Elektra, like the old the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies, it's not really like any of those. It really is basically just poor man's Final Destination meets Terminator.
Yeah. With a dash of Next, which you can't accuse it of ripping off because nobody knows what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, I wouldn't say it's like... People have been comparing it to Morbius because it was the other worst superhero movie ever, but like...
Lots of people are trying to say it's worse than Morbius because they were saying at least in Morbius stuff happened. I mean, stuff happens in this movie.
Morbius has two advantages. One, like... Jared Leto's lead character is just kind of there in Morbius, but he's not actively unlikable the way Madam Web is. And two, you've got Matt Smith not giving a shit.
Yeah, Matt Smith was widely considered the best part of Morbius because he put in probably the most enjoyable performance because he just decided to have fun with it.
Yeah, he was the only one who was in on the joke of Morbius. So it's like, those two things really elevate Morbius above Madam Web. Also, Morbius does have some comic book action. It's just terrible and makes you wonder. This has nothing.
Pretty much none, yeah.
So
it's worse. Madam Web is worse than Morbius by virtue of just not being much of a comic book movie, whereas Morbius had a little bit of that going for it.
But yeah, it's in a way it's almost riffable the same way 50 Shades is riffable because like these characters that are unlikable to the point of being psychopaths that the movie does not acknowledge as being bad almost, but like. It does have, like, Madam Web, it does have riffable stuff just because, like, the CPR struck both of us as so stupid. The villains badly dubbed in dialogue, like this was a bad kung fu movie. And just, almost, yeah, it has riffable elements in it, unfortunately.
Riffable elements, and I will say, the movie is better than 50 Shades, not saying much, by virtue of 50 Shades just being more disgusting.
Yeah.
Nothing's, like, really offensive with Madam Web, it's just that it's really stupid.
It's real, like, what little actually happens is really stupid, and as far as comic book movies go, nothing much even happens, basically.
Some people were trying to say this was worse than Fan Four Stick. Like, what's your stance on that?
I haven't seen Fan Four Stick in a while, but Fan Four Stick, I would say, is probably worse just due to the fact that you can tell, like, it is a jarring transition from, like, two different halves of two different movies that don't mesh together. Yeah, like, this does not feel like it had that same troubled production so blatantly on the screen.
And I think another point in Madam Web's favor is that at least Madam Web is riffable.
Fan Four Stick is not.
No.
So, yeah, I would probably say Fan Four Stick was worse.
So Fan Four Stick still probably carries the title of being the worst Marvel movie.
Well, also, Fan Four Stick doesn't have a villain until the last 20 minutes.
Whereas at least Madam Web can claim that.
This one at least has a consistent threat to it.
Yeah. You were going to say something before?
I forgot if I was. Like 1 star out of 5 by virtue of if you watch it with other people, you can make fun of it.
Yeah.
It is unfortunately probably about 20 minutes too long to bring the Mystery Science Theater night, which they actually threatened me with violence if I ever bring Morbius, which luckily I do not own it.
Yeah.
They said Neil Breen almost broke them, but Morbius, they said, do nobody ever bring that or bad things will happen.
Yeah, like Madam Web For what it's worth, I wasn't bored watching it.
Surprisingly, I wasn't either, but I think if I was watching this by myself, I might have been. Although I do crack jokes at like with stuff when I'm watching it by myself here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that about covers it. So, Madam Web, don't go see it unless you have friends that you maybe want to riff it with.
Well, also don't see it so that it doesn't make money and Sony doesn't make more of these.
I mean, I don't think you'd have to worry about that too much because the movie has been bombing pretty hard. Like, when I was reading up on it, Venom 3 and the Kraven the Hunter movie are pretty far into production.
They're already locked in the tube. Basically.
Yeah, so Venom 3, it seems Venom 3 they're pretty confident in because, they already had 2 prequels beforehand that did decently well. Mm-hmm. My understanding is they're waiting to see how Kraven the Hunter performs before they decide what to do next with their stupid standalone Spider-Man universe. But even then, Madam Web was apparently an attempt to hit the reset button and do another shared Spider-Man universe outside the MCU.
It's supposedly not connected to anything, but it was supposed to start a series probably with the 3 Spider-Women, which why it's not connected to Venom and Morbius, I don't know. But I'm not complaining, but I don't know.
And to be fair, I haven't seen Morbius myself, but I'm not even sure of how Morbius connects to Venom.
There's 2 offhanded mentions of Venom and Morbius, and that's it.
Okay.
Morbius quote name checks Venom to joke at someone, and someone says, "This is the most interesting thing we've seen since that stuff in Seattle," or wherever the fuck Venom takes place. I don't remember.
Yeah, somewhere on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Maybe San Francisco.
San Francisco, that's it, yeah.
But yeah, so Madam Web, it's only really worth it for riffing material. Ideally, it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see what Sony does with Spider-Man. People are been Sony, just give it back to Marvel Studios.
Everyone has been saying, once Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out, Sony should just relinquish everything to Marvel. That's not going to happen. Because, even if this bombs and Kraven bombs and Venom's not going to bomb, but Spider-Verse is still paying the bills.
Yeah, Spider-Verse, basically, Spider-Man is Sony Pictures is cash cow. They basically, Spider-Man's their big mega billion-dollar franchise. They need to stay alive, basically. If they lose Spider-Man, they don't really have anything else to rely upon. Ghostbusters hasn't really proven itself yet with its return.
Yeah.
What else does Sony have? Equalizer's an R-rated series that's not really the Mega Million kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do not know any other Sony franchises off the top of my head right now.
I don't either. I know a few things from Universal, but not from Sony off the top of my head.
Yeah. I know Men in Black is something that they keep trying to bring back, but Men in Black sort of ran its course.
Yeah, Men in Black International did not take off. At least especially not the way they'd hoped.
Yeah. So basically, if Sony ever lost the Spider-Man rights, they would not be going down without a fight.
Yeah, your best bet at this point would be Marvel would have to buy, or Disney would have to buy Sony outright for that to happen.
Yeah, and it's funny because today in the news it was going on how Disney might be discontinuing physical media completely in-house, and they might be getting Sony to do their physical media going forward.
Which is very bizarre.
It's very bizarre, but I'm wondering if that sort of plants the seeds for Disney to just sort of take Sony in.
Maybe they're trying to give them a trade. Here, we'll give you this business revenue in exchange for giving up Spider-Man. Give us the precious!
Basically, because Spider-Man is the only major Marvel character that's still not in Marvel Studios' grasp. I mean, there's still murmurings that Hulk and Namor are gray areas.
Hulk, they can't make a dedicated movie because Universal is holding on to the rights. That's why he has to show up in She-Hulk and Thor Ragnarok.
And I think Namor is like the same thing. Like, I've heard it's Universal that had the death grip on him, but there was a big reason why it took until Wakanda Forever for Namor to appear.
I think Ghost Rider's in a similar boat, and I think
Ghost Rider, Marvel Studios has back.
Okay, and yeah, Blade they got back because they're trying to get that movie going. But that's been a troubled production.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Madam Web, not good. No surprise there.
He's no good.
He's no good.
All right. I really hope that the camera didn't kick off in the middle of that.
Is it good?
It is good.
Thank God.
Oh wow, we babbled as much about Madam Web as Miles and I did about the Tomorrowverse.
Nice.